Hello everyone, this is Dexter Master and this is my brother.
Hey, my name's Georges and I'm Dexter Master's brother. I have always been a fan of Jak and Daxter myself too. I remember us playing the Jak and Daxter Precursor Legacy with our neighbor, and eventually we ended up having this special bond for this game. There was a particular store in this city, and I remember us going with our parents to purchase a game from this game store. We did not have any internet back then, so we did not know what games were available unless you had to look into the new releases section of the game store. So I ended up buying Pirates and the Legend of Black Cat, and as soon as we headed out of the store, there was Jak 2 right in front of us. And somehow we managed to force our parents to buy that one for us too. Next thing you know, the internet became available for pretty much everybody, but YouTube did not exist back then. So an old friend of mine had Jak 3 sitting there for quite a while, and I was the first one to play it at his house, and I told my brother about it, and pretty much we bought it off him the same week. So now that you have a summary of how this all started, we're gonna give you a little bit of a surprise. So we grew older, we worked different jobs and tried out new things in between gaming. I became a musician and I worked at an automotive body shop, and I started painting my own guitars. And throughout the years I got myself some pretty cool looking guitars with quality finishes.
I got into media, which always interested me, which made me start the channel back in 2009. About a year ago, we started living in a temporary smaller space and we wanted things to do. I bought a 3D printer because I wanted to make my own statues.
Figures.
As I showed you a couple months ago, I missed out on the Gaming Heads models and I wanted to create my own Jak and Daxter statues. I ended up creating 10-inch size models of every Jak and Daxter game. It was a long time dream, and after creating successful smaller models, after many tries, I wanted something bigger.
That's what she said!
Cameraman! So anyway, Daxter has always been my favorite character. When I was little, I always wanted to have Daxter in real life.
Really?
He's just a really funny character, and I really like how all of that is reflected in his animated looks.
I'll handle this.
So this was the best opportunity to make that dream somewhat a reality. A real life-size statue of Daxter.
You can call me Orange Lightning.
We created a workshop inside our bedroom, so you can imagine the amount of sleep we had.
I started off by creating the file. I really wanted Daxter to have a huge grin. That would be able to reflect how funny he is. Daxter was looking for pants throughout the whole trilogy, so I thought of giving him the pants for this model.
You know how it lifts and cradles?
The pose is very important. I wanted it to be original this time. Simple, but something that Daxter would do. It had to show how heroic he is, charming, and how easily he greets someone. So I took some ideas from the way Daxter greets the player from the main menu from the PSP game. At one point it has a welcome pose. I was interested in doing that, but probably that would take too much space, and it would get easily broken. There's another screen where he has this huge grin that I wanted, but his pose, although cute, it was a little too stiff for my taste. There's also another where he has his hands across, so that's what I wanted to go for. I played around with a few poses that I liked, but eventually went for this. Simple, casual, heroic, charming, and would look nice in my room.
With my background of automotive and prep work, I monitored him throughout the whole process.
If we're going to make Daxter look real, it was necessary to get not just his looks and attitude, but also his height accurate. Daxter had to be as tall as the games. He did mention that he's 2 feet tall, but thankfully we have an accurate statistic available. On the JakX character select list, we can see that Daxter is 2 feet and 10 inches, so that's what we opted for. It makes sense, since Daxter is like half the size of Jak, and Jak is 5'9" in Jak 3. Now I'm not the best using Blender, so the STL did end up quite faulty in some places. I said I'll fix it in post, but that was a huge mistake. More on that later. When the model was ready for printing, I used a program called Luban, where you can scale the model to the exact height you want, and the program will cut it for you. I also made another mistake here of not setting the right bed size for the printer, so the total number of parts were 44.
And this took a total of 1 month non-stop printing.
The parts were printed using bamboo PLA, and it took a total of 5 kilos of filament. The program gives you the number of the printed part, so it can be easier assembled when done.
So we printed the parts with pegs, and we faced problems due to excess material on the pegs themselves.
We were sanding and removing the excess material in order for the pegs to be fitted to the other part. However, it was taking so long.
So after a lot of tries of shaving the pegs, we just went ahead and chopped them off.
You don't know shit about shaving. You can shave my
Come on, cameraman, even on this video, seriously?
Yeah, baby, let me have my moment. Since COVID-19 struck, I ended up in the kitchen cooking spaghetti and you just sit on your ass in front of the camera.
You know your job was worse with Pirate Weasel.
Do not get me started with Pirate Weasel. He's busy, he said. 10 years ago, we should meet up soon and catch up, he said. What a load of shit. It was the cameraman who saved Pirate Weasel that night.
We used the stitching method to bond the pieces together. You just simply create a small seam of super glue in between the parts while using an activator to create a solid sturdy piece, which led it to looking like this.
We then proceeded to applying automotive Bondo to fill in the gaps. This stuff was very strong and do not recommend it using into your household. The smell was intense and stunk up the whole house and had a lot of complaints from the family members, so beware. I proceeded to sand and fill gaps and cracks multiple times to create a smooth and even product. After spending hours of research, my brother and I decided to use wood filler, which was safe to use on PLA and also at home, which worked great. It sanded smoothly and the gaps were filled in much better. This will allow us to move on to the next step, which is priming.
I'm just gonna put this as a disclaimer. If you're gonna do this yourself, take your time on this. Seriously, prep work is key. If you decide to ignore this particular process, then everything's gonna show up in the priming stage. And eventually it will also lead to the final result. And all the work that you've done will be for nothing. Just make your model look a bit decent. That's all I wanna say on this.
Before we laid on the primer, we made sure that the surface is nice and clean. You do not want to lay on the primer when dust particles are still present on the surface. If this happens, the primer will not stick on the surface properly, and pieces will start falling off during the paint stage.
Now comes the fun part. Once we knew that the model was ready for priming, we just simply went for it. We shook the can for at least a minute or two, so that all the solvents in the can mixed well together. We wore a mask and we made sure that we are in a well-lit environment, like this one.
I can't see shit.
I always like to spray my first coat as lightly as possible. I put my hand a few inches away from the model, and I do not want to get too close or else I will have paint runs, which we do not want. We waited for at least 10 to 15 minutes to hit it with a second coat. I like to go a bit heavier on the second coat since now we have a primed surface to bond to. Then wait for another 15 minutes and apply the third and final coat. And it should end up looking like this.
We then waited for a week as we were super busy with our daily routines, but at least we kept the solvents to dry for long enough. It can be touch dried within an hour or so, but we didn't dare to handle it until at least 24 hours. We let the solvents fully cure before we moved on to the next step. I then sat down for multiple hours, took out a picture of Daxter on my phone and started painting. So, ladies and gentlemen, after a total of 5 months,
We present you
with
with
this.
this. I'm super happy how this model turned out, even though it gave us a hard time to deal with many issues from the beginning, Creating something life-size from a game is surely an adventure.
Creating a life-size Daxter statue was something that I always dreamed of. This will not exclude the experience of creating the project, and if you thought that project was so crazy, you've seen nothing yet.
If you made it till the end of this video and want to see more of this content, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe.
To my loyal subscribers, thank you for being patient and watching my videos. Please leave a comment if you have any questions or if you would like to share your experiences of Jak and Daxter.
Fuck me in my ass, Jack.